I hold $500,000 worth of a crypto called Flux right now. Now, some people hold a lot more, others less, but for me, this is a significant portion of my portfolio, totaling over 25%. So why hold so much? Well, that's what this video is all about. First, let's backtrack. I started mining, buying, and earning Flux over 6 years ago when I first found the project the week they launched. And one of my biggest wins with Flux has been running their Flux nodes. As of right now, I've got 12 Flux nodes, which at current prices have been generating $3,500 to $4,300 per month for the past 3 months. So my average monthly income from these so far this year would equate to almost $47,000 a year if that continues, which is not a bad passive income salary. Last bull run, Flux peaked at just over $3, and the good news is that I think it still has a ton of upside potential if things go well over the next year or two. So, what the Flux is Flux, you ask? Well, imagine a world where you have an internet that's not controlled by major corporations like Amazon or Google, but is instead powered by us, the users. Wouldn't that be nice? Well, that's the vision that Flux is turning into reality. Flux is an infrastructure or DePIN project that combines blockchain as a service and decentralized computing, all powered by the Flux blockchain and using proof of work to secure the network. This has huge implications and is one of the main reasons why Flux is one of my top AI crypto picks, even though it's not directly AI related, but more on that in a minute. Flux is similar to cloud service providers like Amazon Web Services, AWS, and Google Cloud, just a lot smaller for now. The key difference is that while these giants use traditional Web 2 as their native environment, Flux relies on blockchain technology, or what we call Web 3. This allows Flux to take advantage of some really cool features that blockchains have to offer, such as greater security and decentralization. You can buy Flux, but you can also mine Flux, which is how I started with Flux. And if you buy Flux, you can run nodes to earn more Flux passively. It's a fluxing cycle, and I'll dig more into the nodes in a moment. The Flux coin is used to buy nodes, pay network fees, run applications on the Flux network, and vote on major decisions via their DAO. But Flux is not just about having their own network. Flux also runs on a bunch of different blockchains, which include many of the major ones like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Solana, Polygon, and a bunch of other ones. Flux was launched in 2018 as a fork of Zcash, which itself is a fork of Bitcoin, which is where the proof of work mining comes from. Well, in March of 2021, Zelcash changed its name to Flux, and the Zel coin became Flux. And Flux is a much cooler name in my opinion, because after all, the DeLorean in Back to the Future wasn't powered by a Zel capacitor.
Flux capacitor.
Now, this change wasn't just a rebrand, but an actual full pivot of the project that put its focus where it is today. The current 3 co-founders emerged through this change in the project. They are Daniel Keller, Tadeusz Kaminta, and Parker Honeyman. As of recently, Flux has been transitioning to a proof of useful work model, which will allow more than just the mining of the coin to take place on the network. It will let all the miners out there do a laundry list of other useful tasks as well. And if you want to dive deeper into Flux's vision, check out this interview I did with the CEO of Flux, Daniel Keller. So how does Flux fit in with the current crypto cycle and AI narrative? From making smarter cars to diagnosing diseases faster than Dr. House, AI has been in the spotlight for some time now, and we've seen massive gains on AI-themed coins. But AI comes with a hefty price tag. One of the biggest issues in AI development is that there's not enough computational infrastructure, which is made even worse by the hardware shortages and the high cost of GPUs. I mean, have you seen how much an NVIDIA 4090 costs? Then there's the problem of AI becoming centralized in the hands of a few tech giants. Well, enter Flux and its secret sauce, proof of useful work. By slashing the cost of computational grunt work, Flux is also opening the doors to AI for everyone. Think of it as the Costco of AI. Bulk resources, wholesale prices. But sorry, no Flux branded $1.50 hot dog and Coke yet. And don't worry, I've got a million more incredible marketing ideas where that one came from, Flux team, if you're watching. And because Flux is decentralized, it means that there's no single big player that can monopolize all the computational power. So how does Flux actually work? As I said, Flux is a proof of work blockchain with half the Flux rewards going to miners and the other half going to Flux nodes. While the traditional proof of work miners continue to secure the Flux blockchain, proof of useful work allows miners to rent out some of these resources and get rewarded with Flux in exchange. And instead of all that computational power going to waste, Flux is using it for training AI models, gaming, streaming, rendering, and other uses. This approach not only eases the pressure on hardware demand, but also makes scaling infrastructure easier as the needs of the AI industry grow. Flux's next feature is their cloud, where instead of your data lounging around in some mega corporation's data center, your information is spread out in nodes all over the world. What's also cool about this is it can potentially lower costs and avoid any single central point of failure. Flux has even partnered with WordPress to host your website in a Web3 friendly and decentralized way, making your website cheaper and faster to host. In fact, if you go to Flux's own website, runonflux.io, that site is running on Flux's cloud, which is running on their node network, and it's super fast. It's pretty rad. But here's where this gets really cool. Flux is called an infrastructure project because it isn't just a single blockchain. The next feature is called Parallel Assets. Flux has created something called Parallel Assets on 10 other blockchains that will be interchangeable with the main Flux chain. This is great because it helps Flux be interoperable, meaning compatible with a bunch of other chains. But this is also a big deal because it opens the door for big exchanges to list them without needing to adopt the main Flux blockchain. So, less friction. Like when Binance first listed Flux, they did so with the Flux token on the Binance Smart Chain network, and it was super easy. This also means that these Flux tokens were distributed to holders across 10 other major blockchain networks, meaning that if you held Flux coins in your Zelcore wallet, which is the official Flux wallet, when they took a snapshot to distribute these tokens, you could have essentially been airdropped these new tokens. I've made tens of thousands of dollars because of this. It's an incredible incentive to be a part of the Flux community and to be a long-term holder of Flux. These integrations include many of the major blockchains such as ETH, Binance Smart Chain, Solana, Avalanche, Polygon, Tron, etc., to name a few. And the latest and perhaps most important one is Flux integrating with Bitcoin. Now, unfortunately, the snapshot for the Bitcoin Flux token has already been taken as of October of 2023, and claiming is expected to be live in June of this year. But don't worry though, if you missed that one, there will likely be future ones. This is also very important because it makes it a lot easier for Flux to access the immense capital locked in ecosystems such as Solana or ETH or Bitcoin, especially with the Bitcoin DeFi narrative heating up. The next feature is their wallets. The Flux Zelcore wallet can be used to store over 250 assets and NFTs across any Flux supported blockchains and integrates directly with major exchanges. This is all in one convenient place. But they also just launched their SSP wallet, or Secure, Simple, Powerful wallet. Now that's in the earlier stages, but it looks pretty great so far. The next Flux feature is Flux Labs. Flux also operates a Web3 incubation and accelerator program known as Flux Labs, which helps launch new projects within the Flux ecosystem. And while this isn't something new, the standout feature here is its affordability. Unlike other initiatives in the space that demand a hefty amount of the project's tokens for assistance, Flux Labs provides its services at no cost whatsoever. The next feature is the Flux X DAO, and the entire Flux ecosystem is governed by it. This is a place where the community can submit and vote on proposals for the future of Flux, and where Flux node operators can vote to accept or reject the proposals. So as you can see, there's a lot of value to be had in owning a Flux node, and for me at least, Flux nodes are where the magic really happens. Flux nodes are real nodes that have actual, tangible utility. They require you to run hardware that the Flux network will utilize. All the dApps built on Flux aren't hosted on some massive corporate server. Instead, they're powered by Flux nodes, operated by folks just like you and me. And this is everywhere around the planet. By setting up a Flux node, you can contribute to the network's computational power, and in return, you earn Flux. And you know Andy loves passive income. Now, there are 3 types of nodes that you can run, and the best one for you depends on how much money you are willing to invest. The first tier is a Cumulus node, and for this, you will need to lock up 1,000 Flux in collateral, or about $1,000 USD as of today, and that will earn you 16.8% APR. The next one is Nimbus nodes, which require 12,500 Flux, or about $12,500 as of today, and will earn you about a 10.4% APR. And the biggest ones are called Stratus nodes, which cost a hefty 40,000 Flux, or about 40,000 USD as of today, and these will earn about 7.44% per year right now. Now, all of these returns change as more or less of each node tier are online. I run 11 Stratus nodes and 1 Nimbus node right now. I had more Nimbus nodes running, but recently I turned those off, and I'll likely just stand up another Stratus node node because for me, less nodes is less for me to think about. And I'm hosting all of these nodes at nodeorbit.com. And I don't just host all my Flux nodes at NodeOrbit, I host all of my nodes at nodeorbit.com. NodeOrbit makes it super easy to run nodes. When it comes to Flux nodes, they do most of the heavy lifting of the setup for you, and the prices are super reasonable. There's a link to them down in the description. Now, Flux also gives you a 15% boost in Flux earnings by having the Cumulus Fractus add-on. You can activate this option by simply providing at least 10 terabytes of storage. Flux is also planning Nimbus and Stratus Fractus nodes in the future, but we don't have any info on that yet and no ETA. And lastly, there are Titan nodes, which are a great way for you to earn more Flux without running a full-on node. With as little as 50 Flux, you can lock up those coins for between 3 to 12 months and then earn 3.19% to 3.59%. And one other important thing to note here is when I say lock up, using your Flux coins to run nodes is kind of like staking. You lock them up in your Zelcore wallet, but you can unlock them and spend them or transfer them at any time. You're in full control of them. There's no time limit. You're not spending these coins and never receiving them back. They're always yours. You're just temporarily locking them up in order to run these nodes. But let's get into the thing you're probably the most curious about, which is how high do I think the Flux market cap can really go? And therefore, how high can the price of Flux go? Well, with DePIN being a hot crypto narrative for 2024 and 2025, I'm expecting Flux to do really well, especially with the AI compute angle. The current DePIN market cap is only around $20 to $30 billion, with Flux sitting in at around $300 million, which means Flux is only about 1% slice of the entire DePIN pie. And my goodness, it's a tasty pie. But there are already tons of projects using Flux to run their infrastructure. These include big names such as Polkadot, Kadena, Kaspa, and even smaller caps such as Neoxa, Radiant, Presearch, and that's just to name a few. There's also the recent Flux integration with Bitcoin, which coincides with the Bitcoin DeFi narrative, and that can be a super strong catalyst. All this makes me super bullish on Flux, obviously. And in this cycle, my pricing target is around $5 per Flux on the low end, which means a 5x from where we are now. That would give it a $1.5 billion market cap, which in my view is pretty conservative. But for me, even this modest market cap would boost my Flux node earnings to over $14,000 per month or $168,000 per year, which is something I'd be very happy with to say the least. But $5 per Flux coin is just my base case though. My bull case for Flux this cycle will be $10 to $20 or more per coin. And that would mean a single Cumulus node that you can buy for $1,000 today would be worth $10,000 to $20,000 and would be making almost $3,400 per year. But as per usual, don't take my word for this. Dig into it all yourself and make your own decisions. I just share what I'm doing, what I'm interested in, and you should not do it too just because I am. Crypto is risky and you need to make responsible decisions with your own money. So while I do love Flux, don't just buy into it because I like it or because you hear that future Andy is making almost $200,000 a year passively with my nodes. Of course, Flux is just one of the many DePIN opportunities right now. Watch this video to see a bunch of other incredible DePIN plays that could be big winners over the next year. Goodbye.